Hi, my name is Matt, and in this video we will walk through the 8 pillars that have come to define my lifestyle approach that successfully helped me reverse type 2 diabetes against conventional wisdom and have considerably boosted my well-being. These pillars include concepts and tools that when embraced together can dramatically improve your quality of life. They have done that for me, and I'd love for them to do that for you. Coming up. Hi everyone, I am so glad that you are here with me watching this video, which is the second installment on this channel. In my first video, I told part of my story where pancreatitis led me to developing type 2 diabetes in the matter of 6 months, but then how my diagnosis was reversed with lifestyle habits alone, no medication, despite professional opinions that tried to discourage me from doing so and even claimed it near impossible. So if you haven't watched that video, I invite you to check it out. The link is above, because it explains why I launched this channel, my first YouTube endeavor, to send a message and give people hope who may need it, and to provide the lifestyle habits that not only helped me reverse the diagnosis of a serious disease, but improved my overall well-being as a byproduct. So if you haven't watched that video, which is about 14 minutes long, please check it out as it provides the motivation and vision for this channel. Now, one quick note before we go over the pillars. I do not have all the answers. As mentioned in the first video, I am no expert, just someone who has lived through a diabetes diagnosis, reversed that diagnosis, and continues to learn more and more every day. I have made my fair share of mistakes along the way, but have been doing my best to polish this approach over time. And I'm sure the approach will continue to evolve as new information arises and I learn more. These concepts and tools have helped me tremendously over the last 5 years, and I'm compelled to share them with you. I'll be delighted if this content helps you in even a small way. And as mentioned in the first video, finding a doctor that is a partner with you in a lifestyle approach is paramount. So with that said, let's take a look at the pillars. The 8 pillars are mindset, information, diet, exercise, sleep, technology, community, and beyond. We will do a broad overview of these pillars in this video and then do a deeper dive into each of them in the subsequent 8 videos. The most foundational pillar, the one in which most of them launch from, is mindset. You may have heard this before, but it bears repeating, and it's something that I have to remind myself of. Your mindset, your attitude, is an incredibly powerful tool that can dramatically alter your experience in life. 2 people can be in the exact same position, everything else equal, except their mindset, and be in a completely different place. One can be drowning in misery and the other exuding joy, all because their mindset, their attitude, is different. One of the most impactful books I've ever read is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist during the World War II era who founded what is known as logotherapy, which literally means healing through meaning. In his book, he describes how he survived Nazi concentration camps. We will discuss this book and other content in the deep dive video, but I wanted to provide a quick preview now since mindset is such a crucial pillar. The main takeaway that I received from this book is this. No matter what your situation, no matter what, you always have the freedom to choose your attitude. Frankl writes, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." This is so powerful, I can't emphasize it enough. Frankl describes what it was like in the concentration camps. How the guards literally stripped them of everything, their food, their clothes, their dignity, they had nothing left except their response. He found that those that embraced this mentality, those that found purpose in the midst of their horrific circumstances, were the ones that survived at the end of the day. Now, this is obviously an extreme example, but it highlights the lesson here. The first step to accomplishing anything worth accomplishing is believing that you can, despite your situation. It's the difference between not being able to stick with something and sticking with it. The difference between not thriving and thriving. The difference between despair and joy. Being able to fully and consistently embrace many of the other pillars we will discuss starts with your mindset. Which leads us to the second pillar, information. Having information is critical. And not just information, but good information. Without it, we are flying blind. One of the marvelous aspects to living during our time is that we have access to so much info. Compared to just 40 years ago, around the time when the internet was invented, our ability to obtain information is seamless. You watching this video right now is a testament to that. Now today there are still varying degrees of access to info, but the average American has all the data they could ever want right at their fingertips. But one downside to this plethora of information is when bad information creeps in. For example, you can get dizzy trying to keep up with the latest fad diet, am I right? There are so many claims that this diet over here is the best diet, and then just 6 months later it's actually this diet over here that's the best diet. I am blessed that my wife is a librarian, an information professional. It's what she does every day. I'm so excited because she's helped me develop the content for the deep dive into this pillar, which is essentially how to access information, and then more importantly, how to decipher good from bad information. This is another foundational pillar that serves as a starting point for some of the other pillars that we will discuss. Which leads us to the third pillar, diet. Ah yes, diet. You cannot discuss well-being without discussing diet. They are inseparable. And if you live in America like me, and especially certain parts of the nation, we see advertisements for the new and improved diet all the time, as I just alluded to a moment ago. Whether it's the keto, paleo, plant-based, vegan, Dunkin', South Beach, vegetarian, zone, Weight Watchers, intermittent fasting, flexitarian, raw food, Jenny Craig, Whole30, gluten-free, macrobiotic, master cleanse, alkaline, Nutrisystem, or the Atkins diet, it can be difficult to keep them all straight, to understand which diets are legit and which ones are outright bad for you. But one important insight that I've learned since pancreatitis changed my life is that the saying, "you are what you eat," has a lot of weight and truth to it. Before this started for me, I was a fairly healthy guy who was fit and ate a moderately healthy diet, striving for balance and trying to avoid the obviously unhealthy foods and drinks in excess. But what this experience did for me was force me to better understand how what we put in our mouths every day greatly affects our bodies. I started with a low-carb diet as I was instructed to do by my physician and dietitian, and did that for about 4 years before learning that while a low-carb diet was great at managing my blood glucose levels, it was not great for my body on the whole in the long run. Now, I don't want to inject any more confusion about diet. I just listed 20 different diets, and that's not even comprehensive. But I do want to share my experience and what I have learned along the way to hopefully add some value in this area. I now follow a whole food, plant-based diet, which I never thought that I would do because I truly am a carnivore at heart. But I now have better blood glucose control than I did when I was on a low-carb diet. This is counterintuitive and against conventional wisdom because a whole food, plant-based diet is high in carbohydrates, which are considered the enemy to a diabetic. So I'm looking forward to going through this pillar with you when we get there to share resources and explain what I have learned about the science from those resources. Another aspect to lifestyle that most of us are familiar with because it's quite ubiquitous is exercise. Whether it's a new approach to working out, such as gyms like Orange Theory or SoulCycle, or new technologies like Fitbit, Strava, or Peloton, we have more ways of staying fit today than we ever have. And that is such an awesome reality. I actually have aspirations to start a fitness technology company someday when the time is right. I have a particular passion for this pillar and have over 17 years of consistent personal experience with exercise and working out. As mentioned in my first video, my passion growing up was playing sports. And when I got injured in college and decided to focus on other areas, I channeled that passion into the gym. And if there's one thing that I learned working out over the years, is that consistency is key. Consistency is key. One observation of many of the fitness fads that have surfaced over the years, such as the copious amounts of workout videos such as P90X and Insanity, is that intensity is emphasized. Now, it's not true of all of them, but many of them stressed working out to exhaustion every single time. For me, I love being intense in the gym because the gym is a passion of mine. But for many of you, exercising is not a passion and just plain not fun for you, and that's perfectly okay. We all have inclinations and preferences towards certain things, but it's important to understand how effective a tool moving your body is to improve your overall well-being. And not just physically, but studies show that it improves us mentally as well, such as reducing stress levels. And if you're starting from scratch, 10, 15 minutes a day can have a big impact on your fitness levels and wellness. So, because consistency is key, the deep dive into this pillar will be all about finding something that keeps your body moving, even if it's in a minor way. Finding means to move your body that's sustainable for you in the long run. When it comes to the pillars, the one that I valued least until more recently is sleep. The thinking was that while sleeping, I either wasn't doing something productive, entertaining, or otherwise. I simply wouldn't go to bed at the ideal time and would feel fine just getting 6 hours of sleep before a workday. Sure, I was still productive at work with that small amount of sleep because my body was trained that way, but I didn't pay attention to how a lack of proper sleep was affecting me in other ways. Studies show that the difference between just 7 and 8 hours of sleep can have a big impact on things like memory retention, for example. But then when I started to prioritize sleep because of these studies, I found myself not being able to fall asleep. My biggest issue was my brain racing when my head hit the pillow, and I'm sure many of you can relate. But over time, after implementing some basic habits and sticking to them, I finally found myself being able to doze off and get the much needed sleep my body required to function at its best. So this pillar is all about the importance of sleep and strategies that you can employ to help optimize one of the most important parts of your day. The sixth pillar is technology. And just like information, we are so fortunate to live at a time with such advanced technology. Technology really serves as a support mechanism for the other pillars. And to provide some examples, meditation apps support sleep and mindset. The internet supports access to information. MyFitnessPal supports tracking your diet, and Fitbits support tracking your movement. And then specifically within the realm of diabetes, we now have CGMs, or continuous glucose monitoring devices, which essentially track your blood glucose levels continuously. Being armed with that information informs you of how to respond in certain situations and tracks your progress over time. That's huge. The amount of technological innovation taking place in healthcare is absolutely incredible. Now, no technology in isolation is going to be that silver bullet, but the combined support they provide can be substantial if leveraged the right way. So in the deep dive, I will share all of the technology that I have used that have really helped me in this journey. The seventh pillar is community. Now, this one might not be as straightforward in the sense of the direct impact that it has to well-being compared to other concepts that we all know, such as eating right and exercising regularly. It's intuitive that if we eat more broccoli than bacon, that we'll be healthier. But I do understand the argument that bacon is better for the soul, but we won't get into that. So while the connection that community has to well-being is less clear, it's far less indirect than I would have originally guessed. I've always valued community, but did not invest in it like I do today until more recently. Having a community of people surrounding you that provide support can make all the difference. And one aspect of community that I've learned, particularly after my college years, is that you can't just sit and wait for an awesome community to come to you. You must go out and find it. And once you find it, you must invest in it. And once you invest in it, the dividends will come. And you don't have to be an extrovert to have community. I used to be more of an introvert, but became more of an extrovert as I saw the fruit from community in my life. I just wanted more of it. There's so much that you can learn from other people because everyone has a different story and has gone through something different than you. Now, don't get me wrong here. Getting something from community is not the goal, just a byproduct. The best facet to being part of a community is what you can give to that community, what you bring to the table. And there's always something that you can give, value that you bring, because you have a different set of experiences than the person next to you, and you never know how your story can help someone. The last pillar, but certainly not least, is beyond. In fact, it's the most important pillar for me. But what do I mean by beyond? What I mean is this: living for something beyond yourself. Viktor Frankl talked about how choosing your attitude was the last of the human freedoms. And he also talked about this concept of beyond as well. Now, this is a longer quote, but it's so worth the read. Frankl writes, "By declaring that man is responsible and must actualize the potential meaning of his life, I wish to stress that the true meaning of life is to be discovered in the world rather than within man or his own psyche, as though it were a closed system. I have termed this constitutive characteristic the transcendence of human existence. It denotes the fact that being human always points and is directed to something or someone other than oneself, be it a meaning to fulfill or another human being to encounter. The more one forgets himself, by giving himself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he is and the more he actualizes himself. What is called self-actualization is not an attainable aim at all, for the simple reason that the more one would strive for it, the more he would miss it. In other words, self-actualization is possible only as a side effect of self-transcendence. Essentially what Frankl is saying is that it's only once we start living for something or others beyond ourselves that we find true meaning. That living for only our own desires and wants in mind leads to a dead end. Now, living beyond yourself may look different for you than it does for me. For me, Jesus is who I ultimately live for, and how I strive to live beyond myself, and everything flows from there. For you, living beyond yourself may be volunteering in your community on a regular basis, or fighting against injustice that you see, or starting a nonprofit that aims to make the world a better place, or many other things. But whatever it is, Frankl declares that self-actualization, which you can think of as meaning and purpose, which I might add is highly correlated to well-being, that self-actualization will only happen once you have achieved self-transcendence, which you can think of as living beyond yourself. So that covers it. Those were the 8 pillars. There was a lot there, so I really appreciate you sticking around to the end. I really hope that you got some value out of this overview, and I'm looking forward to taking a closer look into each of the pillars with you. If you've enjoyed this content and would like to join me on this journey, please subscribe. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.